This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check you have the tickets in your wallet first before you drive 2 hours to the big game. Seriously, you had one job. Now the closest you'll get to the 50-yard line is parking lot D. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sports Legends of the Carolinas. I'm your host, Scott Fowler, sports columnist for the Charlotte Observer, where I've worked since 1994. And as always in this podcast, I'm traveling across the Carolinas, seeking out some of my very favorite sports legends and asking them to tell the stories behind their rise to iconic status. For this episode, we're in NASCAR country at the Hendrick Motorsports campus in Concord, North Carolina. This massive facility sits only about 1 mile from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, which will again host a NASCAR Cup playoff race in October. And I'm delighted to be here today sitting across from one of the most successful car owners ever, Rick Hendrick. Rick Hendrick is an ultra-successful businessman in the automotive world, but what he's known for in sports circles is a NASCAR operation that is celebrating its 40th year of existence in 2024 and ranks as the winningest team in Cup Series history. Hendrick's 14 Cup Series season titles have come with 5 different drivers: Jimmie Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Terry Labonte, Chase Elliott, and Kyle Larson. Hendrick is also a leukemia survivor and has overcome a number of personal tragedies, including a plane crash that devastated both his NASCAR operation and his family 20 years ago. At age 75, he remains in charge of both Hendrick Automotive Group, which employs almost 11,000 people, and the Hendrick Motorsports racing operation. Next, it's Rick Hendrick on Sports Legends of the Carolinas. Rick, welcome to the show.
Oh, great to be here. I appreciate what you've done for our sports. You've done a good job of covering everything from basketball, football, racing, the whole deal.
It's a real pleasure to talk to you. I've been an admirer of your work for a long time. What's the 40th anniversary season been like for you?
Well, we've had a really good year, and just celebrating 40 years. When you finally hit that milestone, you think about how close you came not to have made it the first year. And then you look back through all of the wins and the championships and the people, that you met along the way. That's been one of the most rewarding things to me, the friends that I've met and been able to associate with through sponsors or other race teams. The NASCAR community is a tight community. I was talking to Joe Gibbs on the phone right before we came in here.
Huh.
So, I tell people I get to do the 2 things in life I love the most outside of my family. That's automobiles and racing. And so, I pursued that, and I've been very blessed and very fortunate that I can make a living and be successful in both ends of the business.
I'm telling you, you couldn't write the script any better. When we think about coming down here the first time, we didn't think we should be here, felt so out of place. And to win this on our 40th to the day, that's awesome.
How young were you when you became a gearhead, so to speak?
10 or 12.
Yeah. This was in Virginia?
Yeah, in Virginia, yeah.
Can you tell me about how you got started?
Yeah, I grew up on a tobacco farm, and I didn't know what I wanted to do in life, but I knew that wasn't it, And my dad worked on the weekends with a race team, and he ended up being involved in a couple of the modified cars, Ray Hendrick and Jack Tant and Clayton Mitchell and Frank Edwards. And so I would go to the garage sometimes, and I bought a 31 Chevrolet for $250, and I took used parts out of the modified car and built the motor myself in high school auto mechanics class. And I drag race that car. I still have it today. But that was the love for racing. And then growing up, in the muscle car era, in the 60s, the Beach Boys, She's Real Fine, My 409, and you dream about all these cars, and I dreamed about owning a Corvette. So, it was just a passion and a love affair for automobiles and racing. And I had no idea it would lead to what's happened to me today.
How would you describe Rick Hendrick as a racer, purely as a driver?
I was a good drag racer. I won a lot drag racing. I tried my hand at Busch, and I ran a couple of cup races. And I found out early on I could hire people a lot better than I was. But I still enjoy cars. I still enjoy getting on a road course and driving some.
How high will you get a car these days?
Well, I have been to 200, but
Yeah.
I also love speed on the water. I race boats. So I have a boat today that I run when the lake is calm and nobody's out there at 130.
Really?
So,
Even to that?
yeah. Matter of fact, in the morning, I hope. But
Yeah. Oh, okay.
yeah, but
Is this Lake Norman?
Lake Norman, yeah.
Oh, I live near there. I'll be sure to be careful. I won't get
I'll
up.
text you before I come. No, I'm very careful. But no, it's
So the thrill of speed has really never left you. You've always liked that.
No.
Yeah.
You're more careful today. You know your limitations, but the right environment. I still love performance cars. I've got a big collection that I've been collecting cars for 45 years. And so some of the new cars that come out, the Corvettes, I'm a big Corvette collection. I never thought I'd own one. Now I've got a bunch of them, but I still love the engines, the assembly. I built my own motors back in the day. I went through a program at Westinghouse and NC State, so I went to metallurgy and tool design, and so I knew how to draw and build things out of metal. And so I remember building when I was in school transmissions that people could speed shift by milling out the teeth on the gears so you could speed shift it. And I worked in a station when I was going to school, and I met a car dealer. I diagnosed a problem for him, and then I got in there. I actually went to work for him in Raleigh, and then was recruited by GM, and I went to Bentonville, South Carolina, and then had an opportunity. Chevrolet said, if you can make this deal work, it was a broken deal in a small market, and we'll see that you get a bigger opportunity. And then City Chevrolet came available. And so I moved to Charlotte. You think about how doors open and things happen. I was boat racing then, drag boat racing, and we won the national championship, I think 3 years in a row. And we held the world's fastest propeller-driven boat in 1979-80. And Jimmy Wright was one of the drivers. My brother drove, I drove, and he was killed in one of the boats in Illinois. So I decided I couldn't do it anymore, so I was storing the boats out here with Harry. And Max Mullivan was trying to find a sponsor for my boats. And he calls me one day and he says, hey, would you like to be partners with Kenny Rogers and have Richard Petty drive the car? And I said, is this a trick question? Because I had been out here with Harry, and Harry had said, hey, if I had a chance, I could do it again. And I believed him. And at the same time, through my connections with the modified cars, I knew a guy at GM by the name of Ernie Kellard, and he had GM high performance parts, and I was a big GM parts dealer. So when the local racers around here were looking for special rods and things like that, they would call and I would sell them get them those parts. And I had met Robert G., Dale Jr.'s granddad. Mm-hmm. We're from the same little town in Virginia.
Warrington?
No,
what is the town?
It's South Hill. I was born in Warrington.
Okay.
But Robert G. was from South Hill.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And so I started helping him with his dirt car. So we were involved with that. And then as Max brought C.K. Spurlock and Kenny Rogers, Harry, we started planning on building a car, All-Star Racing, and Richard would drive it. And
That was in 84?
That was in 83.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when your first year is 84,
Yeah,
that was Bodine.
Bodine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Richard, I was in Germany with him on a Mercedes trip when I got the call that I thought we had a deal. We had a handshake, but Richard said, I can't do it. I got to run a Pontiac. And I think his later years, he told me he needed to help Kyle, and the way he did that was stay, at Petty Enterprises. So, And so anyway, I ended up with no Kenny Rogers and no driver, and we got Jeff Bodine, and then I give Harry a lot of credit. He was, and it just so happened that Randy Dorton was in a little building here right beside Harry, and those two guys really helped me steer me in the right direction when we got started, because I started with 5 people in 5,000 square feet of rented space, and we built 2 cars, and 3 of the 5 people were on salary, 2 were volunteers. And Harry was a crew chief.
Harry Hyde, you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And Harry was, so $500 a week, that's what Harry was getting paid as crew chief.
Man, how many people do you employ here now?
600.
600. And how many do you employ at the automotive operation?
It's right at 11,000. They told me it was 10,997. I said, can't you find 3 more? But with the race teams, it's over 11,000.
To go back for a second, but the dealership you were mentioning in Bennettsville, you had that at age 26, right?
Right.
That's where you got it started so young.
Yeah, I was a young.
And then when did you move to Charlotte? Like how old were you?
In the end of 1977.
Okay.
Yeah, I had really turned that deal around, and GM called me and said, can you handle a big deal? And George Hinn, I knew George, I sold him cars in Raleigh. And so he came in, was a partner with me, and we did city, and then everything just exploded from there. And then in 84, we started the race team, and, almost didn't finish the year because we had no sponsors. Won Martinsville, and you know the story. And then we got a little deal, and here we are today.
We did an interview with him for Sports Legends of the Carolinas, and he was mentioning your early ties, which I'd kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
You were interlinked in a number of ways, right?
Yeah, I was part of the Hornets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember those days. I just remember when we were in the Coliseum for the first game, and the ESPN trucks were out there. I think they were ESPN. Yeah. And everybody was all dressed up, and Felix was right across from me on the other side of the floor, and he was holding up his money clip. And I think what you really need to do in life, I'm still working both jobs, but you need to reflect back on people that you met, events that happened, little twist and turn, like I'm at Road Atlanta and I meet Tom Cruise with Paul Newman, and they want to drive. Paul wants to drive one of my cars, and I practiced, and we did it. I didn't even know who Tom Cruise was. And then Tom and I became friends, and that's how Days of Thunder came about. So
it is?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You were behind Days of Thunder, and why? Tell me a little bit more about
Well, actually, Tom would come spend a couple of weeks with us in the summer, and he loved to drive, and we'd go to different tracks and drive road courses. And so he said one day, let's make a movie. I want to make a movie. And he brought Simpson and Brookhammer to town, and Robert Town. And so the story is about a car dealer in Charlotte that started with one car. City Chevrolet was on the car, and Randy Quaid played my part. And then it was loosely about Tim Richmond and Dale Earnhardt. But anyway, I tell people I made 2 movies in my life, the first and last, because things started off pretty regimented, and it got out of control. But Jerry Bruckheimer and I are still good friends.
Robert Duvall was in that too?
Yeah, Robert played Harry.
Yeah,
Robert was more like Harry than Harry was like Harry.
Really?
It was funny, yeah.
Days of Thunder. We'll be back right after this.
If you're hearing this in your Rolls Royce, then Donald Trump's tax plan is for you.
You're rich as hell. We're going to give you a tax cut?
But for everyone else, there's Kamala Harris's plan.
Under my plan, more than 100 million Americans will get a tax cut.
Because that guy in the Ferrari doesn't need another break. But Kamala Harris knows you sure could use one. Paid for by FFPAC, ffpac.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Welcome back. Well, speaking of reflection, this is a good time to do that on your 40th anniversary and all these other milestones. What is I know you've had hundreds of wins in various levels.
Yeah.
What is your most cherished win as an owner?
I think seeing my son win the inaugural race at Kansas in the truck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was an emotional wreck with my wife. And then when I went into the press box and I stood behind and listened to him being interviewed, that was the coolest thing. I mean, that was, you always remember seeing your kids do something really special. And I knew what it meant to him.
Stands between Ricky Hendrick and a GMAC Chevrolet win in NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series competition. Here he comes down.
Hell yeah! Woo! Great job, Ricky. Great job, guys. That is awesome.
He would have been only about 21 at that point or something.
Yeah, I think he was.
20.
Yeah.
We'll get into the plane crash if you don't mind a little bit. But I know before that, your plans for him were eventually he would be your heir apparent here. Was that the idea?
Yeah.
Did he have that sort of mind? You knew that even at that
I could tell. He stepped out of the car in 2003 when he had a wreck in Vegas, and it tore everything loose in his shoulder, pinched some nerves in his neck. So he went to Atlanta testing, and he called me. He said, I can't do it. He said, it's pinching. I go in the corner, it hurts. And he said, I think I need to get out of the car and put Brian Vickers in, and Brian won the Busch Championship. But he had tremendous people skills, and he loved racing. He was so good with people. Everybody here really enjoyed being with him. And when I built this building, I built this office right next to mine. And Richard Petty and I talked about it one day, and we said, we were sharing stories about Adam and Ricky, and Richard said something to me I'll never forget. He said, you and I had a plan, but it wasn't God's plan. Mm-hmm. But I think he would have done a better job at this than I did. So.
Wow. Where do you think this organization would have been today? Would you have probably semi-retired?
He would have probably kicked me out by now.
Get the old man out of here.
Yeah, get out of here. Go do something else.
Go drive your boats.
Yeah, go do something crazy.
I don't know how you did it, having 4 kids myself and a lot of close family relationships. You lost so much on that plane crash in 2004, and that anniversary is also coming up 20 years ago. Talk about how you were able to go on, why you even went on with this. So much of your life as you knew it was lost that day.
12:30 yesterday afternoon, the Hendrick Motorsports Beech 200 disappeared from the radar trying to land at the tiny Blue Ridge Regional Airport outside of Martinsville. Among the 10 killed in the crash, John Hendrick, brother of Rick and president of the company, Ricky Hendrick, Rick's son and retired NASCAR driver.
That day, my brother, my son, my 2 nieces, it wiped out our family. And Jeff Turner, who was running this, my brother was actually here too, and Randy Dorton, who had been one of the main staples of this company. When something like that happens, if you ever lose a child, you'll know that it's nothing as horrible as that is. And I don't even remember much about the first week. But then one day I said, I've got to go over and talk to the people. And I didn't know if I could come back, because in boat racing, I couldn't come back after Jimmie was killed. Mm. And so I came over and I walked in, and everybody had assembled here in the team center. And my wife came, and my daughter came, and Marshall came. And so I walked in and everybody was emotional. Jeff was sitting in the front. He was emotional. I was emotional. And I knew then that they would want us to go on. All these people had worked so hard to build what was here. And I made a commitment to them that we would fight on. We'd go on. That's what those on that plane would want us to do. And it was hard, but the way NASCAR community reached out, Bill France flew up here, and so many people in Charlotte, friends, and Hugh McCall, just everybody. And Jimmie was winning, and Jeff, and so we got through it. But it was it's one of those things I have. It's a little fraternity that you don't want to be in. But Chris Myers lost his son, and it's just so many people, and Kyle Petty, and so it. But anyway, it's one of those things you don't forget. And every year we have a little remembrance out here around the fountains we built, and so this 20 years is hard. In one way, it's hard to believe it's been 20 years. Another way, it feels like it's been forever.
You always went back to Martinsville after that. I know you had some great memories from Martinsville too. Yeah. That was where the plane was headed, of course. Yeah.
I don't like to go there in the fall because the fall, just the air that day, the weather, then going up to the mountain after that. I go in the spring, but I don't like to go in the fall. Matter of fact, I don't know when the last time I've been there in the fall.
So go back to present day a little bit. But so we did a Sports Legends interview we really enjoyed with Jeff Gordon. And so is that the succession plan eventually here? That's what's going to happen?
Yeah. Jeff is like I kid him. I said, I don't know whether you're a little brother or a son. I said, I like to think about you as a little brother.
To beat up on?
Yeah. And so I give him a hard time. He'll tell you that. And I'm always picking on him. But no, Jeff and also my son-in-law, Marshall Carlson, and my grandson loves the business. He's a gearhead. He's a senior in high school this year. And but he works in the dealerships. My granddaughter works in the dealership. But my grandson, Hendrick, he really loves the racing, the cars. He's a lot like I was at his age. And he's got a drifting car he drifts with. And he's always over here looking at the new cars. But he's done a really good job in the summer working in the dealerships. And everybody really likes him. And he loves it. So
that's nice.
Yeah.
Hendrick is his name?
Yeah.
Hendrick
Carlson. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I introduce him to people. This is my grandson, Hendrick. And they'll say, well, what's your first name? He said, Hendrick.
We'll be back right after this.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Welcome back. Jesse Essex told me, and I knew about your massive car collection, how many cars is that? Do you have any idea how many you got in there?
Somewhere around 300.
Wow, yeah.
But that's I never get
years of it.
I never get rid of anything.
Oh, you never sell it?
I sell very few. If I get one that's identical, that's better, I'll sell one. But my dad was that way. On the farm, you never got rid of anything. You kept every nut, every bolt, everything.
Just in case.
Just in case you needed it,
How many of those are Corvettes that you mentioned?
125 or 30.
That's got to be one of the best in the world.
It's the biggest in the world.
Is it the biggest in the world? Well, so I was going to ask you about music, though, because Jesse said you have a bunch of music stuff.
I've got over 300 guitars.
Really?
And that's
you're like your own personal Hard Rock Cafe.
I can't play and I can't sing.
Really?
But I got some really cool friends that are good.
Yeah. So what kind of music do you gravitate to?
I'd say country, but then also kind of pop back in the 80s and 90s. I'm a big Steve Winwood fan. He's been here, of course. Today's world, Zach Brown is a really good friend, and Chris Stapleton's a really good friend.
Wow. Yeah.
So I met some of Kenny Chesney. They've been here. They come to town and they want to see the cars.
Sure.
So, but I love music and I enjoy people that can really do it.
Yeah.
That can play.
Same.
But Tim Richmond was friends with Bruce Springsteen. And so I went to a couple of concerts with Tim, and I got one of Bruce's guitars. And then in 1984, before that, in 84, we won Nashville, and Chet Atkins gave me, the trophy was a one-off Chet Atkins guitar. Beautiful guitar. I have it on display.
Or you have those displayed here too?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
You need to check them out.
I do need to see
You need to go down and see the cars and the guitars.
Yeah, right.
Because I've got Beatle drum heads. I've got Eric Clapton. I've got a Jimi Hendrix guitar.
Wow.
But most of the guitars I have are by artists that I meet or I go to a show, and I'm not bashful about asking them, hey, would you mind signing this guitar? I carry the guitar. I've got a lot of guitars that are played by the artists. And Zach Brown is a really good friend. He and Chris both. I built cars for a lot of those guys. Sylvester Stallone built a car for him.
Really?
He's not a singer, but
no.
But I've got cars with a lot of different people that we've built here for him.
You went through a long bout with leukemia. That was in the 90s. Was when it started.
96.
How did that impact your life?
96. November 18th of 96, I was diagnosed with leukemia. And it was a horrible experience to fight through that, because in those days you either got a transplant or you'd probably not make it, and there were some experimental drugs out there. And I met a young doctor here in town that had just moved to Charlotte, Steve Lemontani, and he was a researcher in New England. And he said, I'll go with you to these different places. He said, if you're going to get a transplant, you want to go to, Seattle. If you want to do medicine, you go to MD Anderson. If you want to see both of them, go to Barnes in St. Louis. So he helped me get into some clinical trials. And I had to take this interferon. It made you feel like you had the flu. And I took that till 2000. I knew in 99 there was a pill coming that would do the same thing with very little side effects. And the idea was stay alive till you got that pill.
Really?
And so I got it in 99, 2000. And I got off of the pill, I think, in 2003, maybe 5. And I've been clean ever since.
Cancer-free ever since. And pardon my ignorance, what sort of transplant would you have gotten? You didn't get a transplant.
I did not, no.
But what was?
Bone marrow.
Bone marrow transplant.
Yeah. Back in those days, if you weren't a successful transplant, you needed to get a related match. You need a brother or a sister or somebody in the family. If you went to an unrelated match, and I think I was in my 40s then, so if unrelated was dangerous, and you probably would have some kind of disability if you made it. And it was like 60% you'd make it, but then probably 25% you might be paralyzed in one arm, or maybe not. It was risky. And so my age and no related match, I went with the medication, and man, I just owe Steve my life, because without his direction, I don't know what I would have done.
Wow. On the racing side of things at Cup, I wonder if you could describe quickly, in just a few words, some of your very most successful drivers? Just a few adjectives.
You're going to get me in trouble.
Yeah, right.
You're just like children. You love them all the same.
Right. I'm not asking which one you love the most, but maybe we'll know from a few adjectives, but I'll give you one. So you tell me. So Jimmie Johnson, let's start with him.
Jimmie Johnson through 3 and 4. Make room. Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. There's another 7-time champ. Jimmie Johnson wins his 7th NASCAR Sprint Cup championship.
Jimmie was the guy that could pick the car apart. As far as if you listen to him on the radio, if you listen to drivers today, they'll say quarter entry, da-da. Nobody ever did that till Jimmie Johnson came along. And so he would start running over 200 in a corner, loose and out of control, telling Chad what he thought the car needed and what it was doing. And his attention to health, detail, and talent, he was unbelievable. He was just a student, and he was like a computer. And he just could break down the lap better than anybody I've ever seen. And on the other hand, Jeff was so talented, and Jeff just could outmaneuver, outdrive, and he and Ray were like magic.
Jeff Gordon, in his final season in the Sprint Cup Series, gets win number 93 on his career, and more importantly.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate because you take a Jeff Gordon and Ray Evernham, or Chad and Jimmy. Tim Richmond had an unbelievable amount of talent. If that guy had lived, he would have won a lot of championships.
Really?
He had as much raw talent as anybody I've ever seen. And he loved he would want to mess around with Earnhardt. He would want to rub on him a little bit. And he was the only guy that Earnhardt knew not to mess with him.
Really?
Yeah.
How many championships do you think he would have won, Tim?
I don't know. I look back at how he finished that 86 season. He either won or ran second if the car stayed together. And he had moved up to third in the points. I remember Richard Childress telling me at banquet, he said, "Man, I'm scared of that guy next year." And, so but he just had such raw talent. And he behaved himself really well when he was with me.
Any other notable ones that you...
Terry Labonte won championships.
Yeah.
Terry was super smooth, very calculating. He had a good rhythm with him, and he was super, super good. I didn't have this guy very long, but, I had several guys. Mark Martin. Only had Mark. Mark finished second in the points to Jimmy, and he had a heck of a year. I would have loved to have had him earlier. But, Schrader was good. No, I'm going to leave somebody out. And on my current drivers today, Larson has got unbelievable talent. Chase has got a ton of talent. And William Byron would know with the experience level he had and what he's done, he's amazing. And Alex has really stepped the game up. So I'm lucky to have those guys, but I'm also really fortunate to have had Terry Labonte and Jeff Gordon and Jimmie Johnson.
Yeah.
I've had some good ones. Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah.
Junior, almost senior.
Yeah. Do you still travel to tracks most of the time? Are you at the...
Yeah.
I mean, is that still a thrill for you?
Yeah.
To do that?
I fly in on Sunday morning and watch the race and come back.
Okay.
I don't go spend the weekend. And because, I have to decide. I've pretty much got my schedule worked out between automotive and racing, and what I'm doing and what meetings I'm having with the automotive group and what meetings I need to be in over here. I don't have to really be in the day-to-day. Jeff does a good job there.
Sounds like you're in the day-to-day in the automotive a lot. How many hours are you still working a week, would you guess?
Don't ask my wife. I don't. I usually work, I'd say 60, 60 better.
You just love it.
And I don't count, and that's not counting Sunday going to the race.
Oh, man.
But, no,
I just do it for as long as you can. I mean, you don't look like you're anywhere near retirement.
No, I'm 75, which I remember walking into Daytona, being the youngest guy on pit road, and seeing Jimmie Johnson and the Wood brothers and all those guys saying, I don't need to be here. Richard Petty. I mean, I was in awe of all those guys. And so now I guess Joe and Roush and myself, Penske, we're all pretty about the same age.
Yeah.
But no, it's if you enjoy what you do, you know your limits. Your body will tell you. Bill France used to tell me, your mind will take you places your body won't go. I'm experiencing that now. Sometimes I run out of gas, and when I do, I just stop. But it keeps you energized, and I love people. I love the teammates I have in both areas, and they're friends. And we look at our whole organization as a big family. We say our people are our biggest asset, and we take care of our people first. That's why I've always wanted to be private and never want to be public.
What's the difference?
Well, when you're a public company, you got pressure from a board that you got to do things to grow your business, and people aren't first priority. Profits are first priority. And to take care of my people, I have the best insurance for them. I have disaster funds for people that need help, that have fallen on hard times. We did 350 scholarships this year for our kids, for our employees' children.
Wow.
So,
what type of personal car do you drive, or do you change it up depending on what you're feeling?
I drive an Escalade, Cadillac Escalade, or Chevy Tahoe. I'm spoiled with those running boards that retract. And with my bad knee, I'm having a hard time getting in and out.
Yeah.
So I had a knee replacement in March.
How's that going?
That's better, but man, that was not fun.
Well, this has been wonderful, Rick. Any closing words? What do you tell people when they ask you what the secret of life is?
I'd say pick something that you love and don't worry about the money. Because I remember calling my mother when I said I was going in the car business, and I just finished school at Engineering State, and she said, "You going to be a used car dealer?" And I said, "Well, I love it." And she said, "Oh my God, I think if you love something, you pursue it, you're happy every day, you get up and go to work, and you'll be successful. You'll be happy, and happy is more important than, I've seen a lot of miserable people that had a lot of money, and I think it's a competition in me that's grown the companies and done the things. And, I love our teammates and love being involved. And I love to see guys like Chad and Jeff Andrews and those guys become leaders. And, I've watched Jeff grow up, and it's rewarding when you get to be my age to see all the people that have grown up in the company now. When we have our 20-year watches here, I give everybody a Rolex that's been here 20 years, and we gave 22 out this year. Wow. And so, I thought that was a good idea in the car business. One time I gave out 60-something Rolex one year, and I thought, man, that was bad. That was good. We're in the people business. I don't care what kind of business you're in. And I love to interact with the team. And so that keeps me going. That's what drives me. And then I'm a little competitive.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. That's Rick Hendrick. I'm Scott Fowler, and this is Sports Legends of the Carolinas. Thanks so much for listening to Sports Legends of the Carolinas, a production of the Charlotte Observer. This show is produced by Lume Ali Sally, Jeff Seiner, and Cotta Stevens. The sports editor of the Charlotte Observer is Lydia Craver. The executive editor is Raina Cash. If you know a sports fan, we've got a great gift idea for you. We've compiled the first 2 seasons of the Sports Legends interviews into a coffee table book, which includes more than 100 rare photos. Among the 33 legends in the book are Steph Curry, Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Steve Spurrier, Jake Delhomme, and Dawn Staley. The first printing sold out quickly, But the book is back in stock now, and you can order a copy at sportslegendsbook.com. For lots more sports content, please visit charlotteobserver.com and consider a digital subscription. You can connect with me, Scott Fowler, by email at sfowler@charlotteobserver.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review the Sports Legends of the Carolinas podcast. Thanks for spending some time with us, and we'll see you next time.